Bassoon players and band directors, this is the video you've been waiting for. Don't forget to bookmark this video for later, share it with every bassoon and band director you know, and make sure to smash that like. Today we're going to be rewrapping string tenons on the bassoon. So the first step, no matter how much you think you can save this thing by just rewrapping it just a little bit, it will never work. I promise you'll be doing it over and over again. So go ahead and find the loose thread, that open running end, and just take that whole thing off. Take that big red rat's nest that you have and just throw it away. You cannot reuse this string successfully. You can save a little bit for some other fun emergency repair tricks that I'll show you in later videos, so don't forget to give me a follow. So next thing that you're going to do is go ahead and scrape off any of the residual fuzz and residue that is on this tenon. Lightning speed. Okay, we've got that just about done. And the next thing that you're going to do is you're going to need some contact cement. Some people use super glue, just a small dot, and that is okay, but I prefer the contact cement. Here's the string that I use. I got this from Joann Fabrics. It's Aunt Lydia's classic size 10, and that will be perfect. It's almost exactly the same as the original Fox stuff. So very, very, very thin coat of contact cement. You can see I'm not putting very much on here, just enough to hold that string first layer down perfectly while I wrap over the top of it. If you don't put the adhesive down, then the base layer tends to slip a little bit and then you end up with a bumpy row. So you want to put that first string down in the same direction as the joint. So not around it, because we're going to wrap around this, and that's what's going to hold it tightly in place. So I leave a little tail for my thumb to hold on to while I get that first wrap going. And it really doesn't matter if you go from the end of the tenon towards the body or if you go the other way around, so as long as you wrap it correctly. Some of the joints take 2 wraps, some of them take 3. So typically your bigger joints, like the wing joint, the long joint and the bell joint, typically only take 2 wraps, and then that wing joint, the one with the metal cap on it, that one will typically take 3 wraps. Now when you're doing this, you want to make sure that this thread is perfectly next to the last wrap you did. You want this to be super tight. Getting the first few wraps is the hardest part. So you want to hold the string as tightly as you can. And as you can see, I'm kind of pulling it up against the previous turn to make sure it's seated all the way up against the edge of that wood tenon, and to make sure the string is, just perfectly tight against it. The reason this costs so much when you take it to the shop to have a string wrap done is not because this is a difficult thing to do, it's because of the time it takes to do. So start to finish, it generally takes anywhere from 30 to 45 minutes per tenon wrap, because this is a painstakingly slow process to get everything absolutely perfect. So I'm going to show you that here just a little bit, and then I'm going to speed things up and jump to the tenon being almost done. Okay. First wrap is done. Second wrap is almost all the way done. So when we get to where we are about 5 wraps away from being finished, sometimes what I'll do is I'll wrap it all the way, then I'll cut the string about a foot longer than what my last wrap was, and then I will undo about 5 wraps. Now the most important thing is to always make sure this stays with tension under the string so the coils don't come loose from you. And then you're going to take that free running end and lay it back across the tenon. Now, the string tends to get a little tangled here, as you can see. It takes just a second to get prepped and set up for this. But you take the free running end that you just cut off, and then you're going to wrap back around that free running end. So you can see I'm holding it with my index finger while I carefully get that next wrap back over the top of it. And you'll continue this until you have all of those final wraps that you took off put back on. They're just going over that free running tail. And so what we're doing is kind of making a slip knot to pull this tight. And so you have to untwist that last loop because it'll keep wanting to twist up over itself. So this part takes a little bit of time and practice to get the hang of, but once you do, you can see it starts to go a little quicker. And when it gets to the point where you can't wrap another wrap over the tenon, then you just go ahead and pull that string, that free running end, and it will go back under those 5 turns of thread, and it will be really tight and it won't slip off. So from here, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to use a razor blade to cut those free running tails off. Now you just want to lay the razor blade on top of the string and then pull the string back over the razor blade as you give it one last snugging. If you try to slice with the razor, you'll cut your strings and you'll have to start all over again. Now we're going to give this a quick test fit to make sure everything feels good and nice and snug. You don't want this to be overly tight. It still should have a little bit of room for expansion, but it definitely should be snug. Now you want to seal the tenon with wax. This is just paraffin canning wax that I'd buy at the local grocery store in the baking aisle. And you'll need a heat gun, a hair dryer. I recommend a hair dryer or a heat gun. You don't want to use a flame because you don't want to damage the wood and you don't want to light the string on fire. And you're going to give this a good coat of wax until the wax soaks all the way through into all of the string. So this is going to protect the string. It's going to pull it together as a solid piece, and it's going to keep water from getting in there. And it's going to tighten up the string a little bit. So when you saw I test fit that tenon in there, it was sticking out just a little bit. But once we get that wax in there and it tightens up that string the rest of the way, then it'll be a really good snug joint and it'll go in and out easily.